This video will show you how to take your real estate website to the absolute 99th percentile in terms of technical SEO without knowing how to code, without having to know any technical aspect. Thanks to AI, I'm going to step you through it. This is something most agent websites do not do. They do it half measures at best. This is your opportunity to take your SEO to the next level. It costs nothing and it can be done fairly quickly. So stay tuned. What this is all about is using AI to take your schema markup, and I'm going to get into that and explain what all that means, to the level where most agents are not doing at all. Okay, the few that maybe pay for some very talented SEO agencies to help may be doing this, but even then I suspect most are not doing it to the degree that I'm going to show you in this video. And it's very, very simple to do. Once you do it once, you will be able to do this for your entire website. Okay, so what is schema markup? Schema markup is code you add to a web page that tells Google exactly what the page is about. Okay, now you might be thinking, well, I give a title, I write an article, can't Google tell what it is about? Yes, Google can tell what it's about. Schema markup doesn't give Google any wiggle room for interpretation. Schema markup tells Google precisely what that particular page or URL is about, and that is important. Okay, think of it as giving Google a cheat sheet. Instead of guessing, it knows this is a house for sale. This is a place, as in a neighborhood or town. This is a person's profile, as in this is Jane Doe, realtor. Okay, that's why schema makes search results look richer, and that's why I started here. You were probably wondering, why on earth am I on a recipe page? We'll take a look at these features, okay? A lot of what's going on here would not be here unless these websites were implementing schema markup. Now, the reason I chose recipes is that's one where there's a lot of schema going on and it's pretty obvious in the search results. So we could see star ratings, we could see image, we could see stuff going on here that wouldn't normally show up in search. This is an unusual search. Well, it's not unusual. It's usual for those who do schema. Okay, this is what's making it stand out. This is what's helping it be #1 for fudge brownie recipe. You can imagine that that gets a lot of searches. Okay, so now let's apply this to your realtor website. Okay, how important is it? Well, it's not the magic juice that's going to skyrocket everything you do to #1, but it's like dressing a result in a sharp suit while others show up in t-shirts, and that's very, very true. Now let's get to the nuts and bolts. What are the most important schema types? Now, you might even be thinking to myself, I don't even know what any schema type is. I have no idea. This is the first time I've ever heard of that. And I'm going to explain all that. Okay, there are dozens, probably hundreds of different schema types. Most do not apply to real estate websites. You want to pick and choose the correct schema. You do not want to game Google. You don't want to add a recipe schema to an article or a blog post you're doing because it has nothing to do, your site has nothing to do with recipes, right? We want to be fairly accurate. And there's some standard approaches to real estate websites. This is a page to schema match for the most part. This is pretty good practice. I think I'd be able to figure this out by now. All right. Homepage, you will have the local business schema with a subtype of real estate agent. Don't worry, I will show you how to do this. Keep watching because this is important, and I'm going to show you how you can do it without having to code. The about page would be schema. That would be you. That you'd want your name if you have other agents listed as part of a team or whatever, you want to include them. Service page. So you're going to have a page like, well, what are your main services? Well, I help people sell their house or help people buy their house, or you have multiple service pages. And the point is you want, for every service page, you want to add your service schema. Property listings. This is probably where a lot of agents aren't paying attention. This is if you index your property listings. They don't have a product offer schema, which would provide all this information in there and would be something that most are not doing. Testimonials page would be review schema. Remember those stars that we saw for the recipes? Well, that's what you can do here on a testimonials page. Creating a testimonials page, most people wouldn't visit it. You'd want to put your testimonials like on your home page, on your service page. You can put them everywhere as much as you can. But by having a dedicated testimonials page, you can get a review schema on there. This isn't a good example here in terms of what not to do. Just because you put a testimonial on, let's say, a service page, does not mean you would want to then add review schema to your service page. That would be overdoing it. That's why you want a dedicated testimonials page, because that is a legitimate reviews page. FAQ page. This would most websites have an FAQ. Guess what? You can have FAQ schema. And what that does is it wraps each question and answer in the schema markup, and that will show up in Google search. If it's searched and so forth, they'll come up as one of those questions rather than a website listing. Here's something that a lot of agency sites miss out on. Okay, neighborhood pages. First off, I highly recommend neighborhood pages for every agent. You don't have to do them all at once, but let's say you got 20 neighborhoods in your service area. Create a nice neighborhood page for each. Make it super helpful. Just put yourself into the mindset that you're a travel agent or something, and you want to show off this neighborhood, the pros and the cons, to anybody who's possibly thinking about moving there. That's what you do. But you can put place schema there, and I'm actually going to show you that specifically. And then there's sort of a more of a general or broad type schemas called article. So if you have general blog posts, this will go in there. Now, there's a bunch of different ways you can create a website. There's WordPress, there's your IDX platforms, there's Wix, you pick your platform, you can do it, okay? All of them are going to have some schema built in. So for instance, with WordPress, I use the Rank Math plugin, which is what I'm going to show you. There's one of the most popular plugins for SEO for WordPress. And so it's got some schema baked into it, but it doesn't have it all. It doesn't have the stuff that's going to take it to the next level, and that's where we're going to get AI to help. And I suspect it's the same with Wix and IDX website platforms. They're going to have some schema baked in. Some may have more than others. You want to investigate that to see, because you don't want to add the schema code twice to a page. And I will show you how you can actually go to any page on your website and discover which exact schema is in your page and whether it's done correctly. And if something's missing, then you can add it. Okay, so these are your main schemas that you would do for your pages. There's not a whole lot more that you might have as a real estate agent. These are key. Now, the next question, can you put more than one schema on a page? And yes, absolutely. And so again, you don't want to game it, but you want to be accurate. Like for instance, article could go on neighborhood pages, right? If you have FAQ on a neighborhood page, you could add FAQ schema to this neighborhood page and wrap those question and answers in the schema code. If you may have a person schema for an article that you write that's more personal. So yes, you can have multiple schema on one page, and in fact you should, okay? Now, let's dive in and take a look and see how this actually plays out on a website. Now I got a site here I'm working on. I was working with an agent here, building this thing out, and I have a neighborhood guide, okay? So now, please bear with me. I understand you may not use WordPress. So where things are on whatever site platform you have are going to be different, okay? But I will show you where you can find schema for any page, regardless of your platform, and then you can see what's missing for each of your pages. Now, here we are. We are going to look at the schema here. So right now, it has article schema for this. Okay, that's legit. I'm going to keep that. That's baked into the plugin by default. Now, this Rank Math plugin actually has a good number of schema built into it. We've got FAQ, which is relevant. We've got person, which would be for the about page, so that's relevant. We've got services. Okay, well, that's good. That's relevant. Now, what I don't believe it has is real estate agent, which we're going to be able to code ourselves. And we got product for house listings. I'm not sure entirely that we'd want to use this or code it ourselves with the help of AI, but there is some schema baked in. Now, the only other schema I would want to add to this page would be place. And this is something most agents don't do, okay? Most would put the article because most SEO plugins include that. But they're not going to have a place. And in fact, we don't even have the place option here. So if it's not something that's by default in a plugin, you can bet that most of your competition will not have it in here, and that gives you a leg up. So let's dive into ChatGPT, and let's ask it to, one thing you do need is, this helps right out of the gate, is we want the URL. Okay, I have the URL here. I will type the prompt here. I'll do it live so you can see how this is done. So write schema markup for place specifically. That's it. Pretty straightforward, okay? So this is what we're gonna do. And while it's doing that, I am going to show you the schema markup validator, okay? Validator.schema.org. You put your URL here and it will run a test and it'll tell us exactly which we have. Okay, so we've got web page, all right, yeah, pretty standard. Article, which was the one baked into the plugin. And then we got our place. All right, now I actually already put this in here, but I'm gonna show you anyway. I'm gonna show you how I deployed this. But this is what I had, and listen to me, I don't know how to code a schema markup to save my life. This is AI, and you can see 0 warnings, 0 errors. This is correctly on the site, which is amazing because it makes schema available to all of us for any website. It's pretty cool. Okay, so here we go. It's called JSON LD schema markup. We got all of this. Now, here's the thing what you got to do. Don't just quickly copy and throw this in your website because first off, I added the URL, but normally if you just add it to write schema, it'll have like basically some placeholder URL. You want to make sure you get your URL where the article is. That's very important. And you want to go through and you want to make sure there's nothing missing. Okay, sometimes schema might require that you add something, but I'm seeing here that we now have, we don't need an address because we're just dealing with a neighborhood. We're not dealing with a specific address. This is looking complete, and that's because I gave it the URL right here. Okay, so we're going to copy this. We're going to go into our editor. So in order to add schema, I use Cadence theme. I'm not sure which, there's a million different themes. One nice thing about Cadence is I can add custom scripts to any individual page, including markup, schema markup. I'm gonna put it in the head and that's it, okay? So I had this on here before, so I already did the validation and it worked. All right, so we got our places validated. That means it's coded. If you see an error here, okay, let's say we had an error, I would take the schema that I pasted, I would put it into AI. Claude will do too. You don't have to use ChatGPT. And I would paste that and I'd say there's an error here. I would copy the error warnings that would be reported here. And then I would just dump it all at ChatGPT and say, here's the error I got for validating schema. Can you fix it? And it'll either recode it or it'll tell you, well, there's nothing wrong with the code. It's just you forgot to add the URL or the address or whatever. Okay, so it'll step you right through it. It's very, very simple that way. Let's try one more. Okay, let's try something a little bit different. Let's do schema markup for same place, but also person John Dykstra. Now this is interesting. Well, let's do it differently. Let's do schema markup for real estate agent service local business and John Dykstra. So what I want to do here is I want to combine 2 schema into 1 code snippet, and let's see if this has worked. And John Dykstra and person. Yeah, this is very crude. You can see this is very layperson prompt. I hardly even know what I'm talking about, and that's good because most real estate agents don't know what they're talking about when it comes to this stuff. So the fact that you can just talk like you have no clue to AI and it can figure it out, that's pretty cool. So we're I would never add a service or even the person to this page, but I'm going to add it here just to see that it's going to validate correctly. So bear with me. This is a little bit of a process. Here we go. So we got my name in there already. So I'm assuming that that's going to be correct. We're really not going to know whether everything's going to be correct until we do a validation. Let's see. We got some placeholder stuff here too. Like we got a street address. It's a placeholder. So anything you would see this, you'd want to change this to your address. Same with postal code. So we got a lot of stuff here that's just sort of assumed. I'm going to keep it in there just for the sake of ease. Just kind of go through here. All right, well, let's see what happens. Let's throw this on the site. We'll go back into our schema. We're gonna add this here. What I would normally do is we'd also want to combine the neighborhood too, but this is just for demonstration purposes here. All right, we will do a refresh on this. All right, let's take our code and let's go to our validator. We'll run a new test. Let's see what we get here. Look at this. Look at that, it worked. I talk like I'm amazed. I've done this a lot, but I still, every time it works, I just am amazed. So we got real estate, business. Now, what we didn't get was the John Dykstra, but that could be built into John Dykstra as the realtor. So I would be happy with that. This is fantastic. The fact we got 0 arrows, 0 warnings, I'm good with that. And plus we've got place on there as well. So there you go. That's how you do it. I'll throw in some of these materials, especially the page-to-page schema matchup in the video description, so you can take a look at that. This is pretty much all you need, and ChatGPT or even Claude to help you basically get the proper schema markup added to all of your sites. Now remember, if you get an error in the validator, just copy the error code, copy the schema that you put in there, give it to ChatGPT and say, please fix this error. Well, you don't even have to say, please. I do sometimes. Fix the error. And it will, and then you'll be up and running. Now, yes, this is a page-by-page endeavor, but it's worth doing. This is something where you could probably bang this out in a couple hours, unless you have like thousands of pages. But if the more custom that you do with your website, because a lot of built-in stuff is not going to work for this. That's why, one by one, you custom your schema markup for each page. That is going to get you to the next level. That's what's going to help your SEO. And SEO for agents or any local business is an absolute no-brainer. And the reason for that is you do it once and it'll generate leads for months, for years, because it's free traffic from Google. And there's also AI search now, and that's a huge part of it. And now, I don't know for certain whether schema AI search is like an AI search, just in case you're curious, is somebody who's looking in ChatGPT for a realtor. More and more people are using ChatGPT as a search engine, including me. They might be like best realtors in Bellingham, and then it's going to come up, and you may get listed. And I don't know for certain because AI search is pretty new, and most people are still trying to figure out what exactly works to get listed. I can't help but think schema, it's certainly not going to hurt where ranking in AI is concerned. I suspect it's going to help because, again, it's telling Google exactly what your page is about, and it can communicate the same to AI. Thanks for watching.